Hello and welcome to busyworksbeats.com. Today we continue our free course for beat making. This is going to focus on sampling. So if you don't know me, I'm Game from busyworksbeats.com. We trained over 1 million producers around the world. Some have gone to work with Drake, Kanye West, Post Malone, Ariana Grande, French Montana, Young Thug, Polo G, Trippie Redd, J. Cole, Kendrick Lamar, Glorilla. Some have won Grammy, some platinum plaques. So I'm going to give you guys a simple approach to sampling. And the first thing is getting samples. So you guys can hop in our Discord. It's discord.gg/busyworksbeats. When you join in, click here at the top where it says busyworksbeats. Click where it says show all channels so that you can see everything. On the left side, you want to go down to where it says downloads, go to where it says hip hop samples, and you guys can find all of the classic hip hop samples from almost every classic hip hop album. Okay, so we have everything from Jay-Z to Nas to Dr. Dre to Kanye West. Everything's in here for you guys, linked and ready to go. Okay, now also you guys want to look at YouTube playlists. Those are really, really good for finding samples. But as you guys know, putting out the sample beat is the frustration and the headache, because you have to get stuff cleared and it becomes really, really messy really easily. That's where Suno V5, we're on V5. I can't even imagine what the next versions are going to sound like. But this is like an infinite record pool. And what I'm going to show you guys is how to create in here quickly. So for example, if you go to Suno, let's go to the custom tab and let's give it some lyrics. I've found that it's best with lyrics because it just sounds more human. So I'll just say, I want to love you, ain't no one above you. And then we'll put, you're the apple of my eye. And then like a diamond in the sky, girl, I love you. Something like that, okay? And then we'll put styles. I've found the most consistent style is 1970s black soul. This always gives me a super fire result for this era. And we're gonna put it in our a specific workspace, which is like a folder. Hit create. So the reason I use Suno is because we can come up with so many ideas so fast, okay? And let me keep generating these. Okay, so I'm clicking here. Well, 1, 2, we already have 6 generations, and it's going to take less than 1 minute to generate each one of these. So you're going to save a bunch of time. This is basically, like I said, an infinite sample crate. Now, if you're going for the traditional, flip for very specific artist styles, then you guys can use YouTube playlists, or you could use all the links in our Discord. But there's a point where either somebody already used it, or again, you're going to run into that issue where you can't even do anything with it because you have to deal with clearing everything. So here it's generated little small clips. So that's a little too like dusty era. So I'm not going that early 70s. I want more of like a more upbeat type of sound. Something like this. And I'm gonna repeat the lyrics a couple times so that it doesn't just keep giving us 30 seconds of audio. Okay, so you guys get the gist here. You can get a lot from those. Okay, so I already have some saved. Now we're in FL Studio. Okay, so there are 2 main ways to sample. You guys can either chop sample or you can loop sample. So those are the 2 main ways to go about sampling. Now, before we even get into sampling, I recommend you guys actually start with your drums if you do plan to do chop sampling. And that's because if you're not loop sampling, you have to fit the groove around your drums. Okay. Whereas loop sampling, the groove is going to be the groove no matter what, because you're just time stretching. But when you're chop sampling, meaning if I talk like this and I keep every word is chopped into little pieces like this, if I chop sample, you can potentially change the perceived rhythm. Okay. So let's go for a chopped sample. So you have to first decide, do you want loop sample or chop sample? Okay. So we're going to go to our drum breaks folder. I'll leave a link below to the drum broker. You guys can save 10%. And let's go to the new Beat Butcher pack called Filth Volume 8. Okay, let's grab his breaks. You could also do one shots. I prefer chopping from a break because it gives you more detail and more minute changes. So now we just need some drums that fit our vibe that we're going for. So I'm just clicking around. There's no rhyme or reason here. I feel like these are going to work. Now let's right click and we're going to open this and slice. Okay, very important to open and slice because it will automatically chop it by the transients and save us a bunch of time. Okay, now you can use your MIDI controller, or you could right click here on the typing keyboard to piano and select slice. So now your typing keyboard will actually, you could play each chop starting from Z all the way up to Q. Okay, so that saves a lot of time doing the, okay, so we really just need hi-hat and a kick. So let's make sure we have kick, hi-hat, snare. So we have a little flam snare, we have a hi-hat. That's all we need, hi-hat, snare. So let's change our BPM. We're gonna do more of a boom bap sample vibe here. Let's go to like 82, 84. That's usually where boom bap lives. Now we're gonna record on a new pattern. Very important to switch to a new pattern here. We're gonna hit record, right click here, make sure all this stuff's turned on. All right, and all I'm gonna do is play find that hi-hat. Now, if you wanna get basic with it, you can start with your hi-hat, okay? So the reason we're doing this is we're creating a hi-hat pattern to become our new tempo, our new metronome. Okay, so we're gonna record to the metronome and then take the metronome out. Okay, so all I'm doing here is just playing the hi-hat. I'm gonna redo that because I started a little sloppy. Also, here's a trick is to record a bar in the beginning so that you can get your fingers in position. I think I have enough bars. All right, so it's a little awkward to record for an extra bar. But again, the reason we do that is so that we can get our fingers in that natural timing so that we're not playing super stiff in the beginning and then looser at the end. Now that we have 4 bars, just drag this, hit Control to highlight this, and just left click the edges to grab a smaller selection. I'd recommend you guys keep your snap to grid on bar mode. So now we're gonna remove the metronome, and this becomes our new metronome. Here's another trick, turn up your sounds. This will help you with leveling. So just turn up your sounds until we get into the mixing stage because it will force you to turn stuff down. Let's go to our channel rack here and let's hit Control L to send this to the mixer. So if you guys want like real fundamental beat making stuff, go to busyworksbeats.com/premium because there I have way more stuff around music theory, how to add music to a sample, you know, drum rhythms, drum patterns. Now we just need the kick and the snare. Let's add this in. Okay, so see how now one thing about this kick sample specifically is that it has a hi-hat in the kick sample. We could, in theory, just kind of fade it out. I'm trying to think of an efficient way. Because if we add a marker, let me see which snare pattern I clicked. Okay, so if we add a marker, it will offset our drums, which is probably the smartest thing to do here. So let's double click in here, hit the letter M, and hit enter so that you can actually see a slice marker. Now this should offset our snare. Okay, so we need to go to our channel rack, click inside the piano roll, hit Control on this one, and then hit Shift up to nudge this to the next marker. So now the marker hits on the right marker. Now these drums are very big. Okay, so let's say you want more of a hip hop tone. I'm going to show you guys a couple techniques. So what we can do for the kick, for example, it's very bright. It has a hi-hat over the top. What we can do, which is an old 90s thing, technique, is run this through a low pass filter. Let's double click on marker 1. Let's go to here where it says articulator. Okay, and then we're going to go to 2. And we're going to send this kick through a different articulator here. under the filter mode for 2. So now this is segmented and removed from the group of stuff on its own filter. Now let's add the filter by clicking this X1 and lower the resonance here. And it should muffle our kick when we lower this cutoff. So now we don't have that hi-hat stacked over top of the kick, and that's important. Okay, so we can turn up the resonance just to bring back some of the sound. Okay, so we still have some of that chordal texture that was on it, but we don't have that hi-hat anymore, and that's super, super, super important for the rhythm. I'm going to just adjust a couple of these markers because they're a little sloppily made. So I'm just going in and making sure the marker happens before the audio, not like in the middle of it, because it will cause clicks. So I'm just adjusting some of these. Okay. Now okay, so you see what just happened. It just automatically did what it did. We can either hit Control Z to remove that. It's probably the fastest thing to do. Now we have to ask, what about this don't we like? And my ear doesn't like the kick. I think it's the hi-hat, actually. Let me mute the hi-hat. This hi-hat just sounds weird. Okay, so let's say we want a different hi-hat. Let's go to our channel rack here. All we need to do is hit Control C to copy this. And now we just got to find something with the hi-hat that sounds better. So let's go to a different kit. So this sounds a little cooler. Let's open this in Slice. So you may have to mix and match hi-hats from different kits. It happens sometimes. Okay, let's go in here and let's get rid of this pattern. Let's just delete these notes. We need to hit Control V to paste the hi-hat pattern into the new sound making thing. So let's hit Control L. And now we need to find the marker that gives us the hi-hat by itself, which is marker number 1. So let's pull this down. These hi-hats are a little dark. I guess that's just the way the kit is made. So because we sent everything to the mixer, hitting Control L, let's open up the mixer here. We don't need to obsess about mixing right now, but I'm just going to show you guys how to fix some of this stuff. We can either use the EQ down here at the bottom right of the mixer, or we can go to slot 1 and open up a parametric EQ 2 and just boost up the highs like this to pull back some of that energy, because it's very dark of a hi-hat. Now it cuts through a little bit more. All right, so like I said, you guys want to spend that day or two just finding drum sounds and samples. So you're going to have all different samples from all different types. When you're choosing your drums, though, you want to make sure most of the time that the drums usually come from the same recording so that they have a cohesive sound. And we might swap out the snare. I'm not sure if I'm a fan of the snare type. On the kick and the snare, though, we're going to group the drums and the mixer here. So let's create a drums group. We're going to hit Control to highlight these, right click and route to this track only. And we're going to load up a plugin called Standard Clip. This is really good for acoustic drum samples. So if you guys stack up a bunch of drum breaks, this is a great plugin to have. And we're going to mess with not only the clip threshold here, we're going to mess with the saturation mode. And this is what adds that knock. So the only thing I would probably adjust here is some of the tone in the kick. So let's go back to the kick. Now, again, most of you guys won't have to do this much work. We're just going to pull down the resonance on the kick so it's not as like that. So now this feels a little more cohesive. All right, so now we have that rhythm. We're just going to copy and paste that all the way through. Now, the more elaborate you guys are with your drum patterns, the more variation you can create over time. In music production, you have 4 main components, and in short, we're starting with the component at the bottom here called the rhythm. Okay, but you have 4 main components when it comes to arranging your songs. When you guys talk about arrangement and you get stuck, chances are you're not using a structure formula like this. So for example, we have a top line in our song. This is our memorable melody. We have the harmony section. We have the contrast section. This is our bass line. We have the rhythm section. Okay, these are the 4 components of every song. So we already have the rhythm section. Now we know what we need. We need a top line sound. We need a harmony, which does not always mean a super lengthy chord progression. And we need a contrast. So most hip hop starts with the bass. So let's open up. Actually, let's start with the sample chop because we don't want to build a bass line that doesn't match the sample. So let's start with the sample. Now, what is the sample giving us? We need to listen to the instruments.
I need you, baby.
Okay, so that whoo, that's a harmony. Okay, I think we can use that. Now, what we're going to do is a couple things. Firstly, we already have drums. We don't want these drums to conflict. Let's left click, drag this sample into the playlist. I would only recommend doing this next step if you have a short sample. If you have a super long sample, do not do this. It will take forever on most computers. Okay, so in the top left, click here. We're going to do extract stems from sample. We're going to separate everything out of here: drums, bass, instruments, and vocals. So the reason we're doing this is because, again, we don't want our drums to conflict with their drums, but we need their drums to help us chop the sample. So don't get rid of the drums completely. Just separate them for now. Now I can visually see, okay, this is where stuff starts, is this pointy part right here. Let's grab this slice tool and let's hit Alt to do micro slices like this. If you're in FL Studio 25, you don't have to hit Shift, but if you're in older versions, you have to hit Shift to do a vertical slice and then hit Alt. Okay, so we're in 25, so I'm just gonna hit Alt, left click. And all we need to do now is count the music. You don't wanna chop something where you're not counting the music, okay? So let's start counting. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 2 and 3 and 4 and slice and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 2 and 3 and 4 and slice and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 2 and 3 and 4 and slice and 2. So the end, we can't, there's no drums. Okay, so we have about what, 1, 2, 3 main segments we can use. Now, the more the better because we can arrange these. So anytime you guys feel stuck in your arrangement, it's probably because you don't have enough stuff. Now, what can we do from here? We need to figure out what do we actually need from the sample. We need the harmony section. We could use their bass. I kind of want to do my own bass, but let's see what their bass sounds like.
I need you.
Kind of like the bass, but it has to match our drums. So I'm not sure if it matches our drums. So we might keep the bass, we might not. Okay, so what are we gonna do from here? We're gonna mute the drums. Let's grab this mute tool and simply mute these drums. Now, we did not time stretch this. All we did was count the music. We counted in 2-bar increments. So I need to either combine this stuff, okay, so that I can do time stretching, or let me just left click here and just kind of eyeball it because we already have 84 BPM. So the next thing we need to do is click here under audio clips, click where it says stretch audio. There's a lot of ways we can do this next step. One is we can make these unique as a sample, which I'd recommend you guys do. So click in the top left of each one of these chops. So we have what, 9 chops here. We're going to make each one of these unique as a sample so that it's only seen as this audio and not the audio over here. Because by default, FL Studio still looks at everything as one file. Okay, so we're basically creating new files so that everything is completely separate from one another. This is extremely important before you start time stretching, okay? So we're gonna highlight this, and there's 2 ways to go about it. We can click here where it says audio clips and click this little icon where it says stretch audio when resizing audio clips. So in some use cases, you would use this tool. You could left click and time stretch. In most cases, it's easier and more efficient to just double click on the sample. And actually, I forgot one step. Let's go to tools here. Let's go to macros. We want to switch all audio channels to stretch mode. Okay. So basically, when you double click here, everything will already have stretch mode highlighted. Okay. Any audio that you have in your session. So now you don't have to worry about it. When you change the BPM, it moves around and does all this weird stuff. Okay. So now let's double click in here. And let's right click and select the proper amount of bars. In this case, 2 bars was what we counted. So we're going to make sure that's 2 bars. Now, if you did not make this unique as a sample, your entire audio will stretch to 2 bars and it's going to sound off. So let's just listen to the metronome. It should line up.
I need you, baby.
See how some things feel off? It's because with the drums were taking care of some of that off balance. But it feels a little bit behind the beat, okay? So let's highlight all these. We're gonna hit Shift Q, I learned this from Infinite, to quantize audio to the grid. So now we can just click over here, double click, right click. Again, this is tedious in FL Studio, but it is what it is. Right click, so now everything is 2 bars. Boom. We're gonna do the same exact thing over here. Hit Shift Q to quantize it. Now you see how it created that fade? If you overlap audio, it will fade. So my goal is to not have it overlap, hit Shift Q, and then bring it that way so that it doesn't overlap to do that. Anyway, right click over here, go to 2 bar.
I need you, baby. I need you.
So this should line up with our metronome if we chopped correctly.
I need you.
So let's say you feel like something's off, which I think the first chops are off. It's just a little too relaxed. Let's change our snap to grid to a half beat or to a beat. Because we got rid of our drums, there's nothing to line the audio up to. So we're gonna highlight these, hit Control, grab your slip tool, and hit Alt to nudge the audio back.
I need you.
And this feels a little more in pocket. Now, as you guys see at the end, the bass here is early. So now I need to make a chop over here and fix that. So this is where that time stretch inside of the playlist comes in handy. So let's hit Alt, and we need to make sure that it's a vertical slice, hitting Shift if you're in older versions of FL Studio. Now, as you guys can see, the audio just kind of drops off. So there's 2 solutions. We can firstly click on where it has the slip tool, okay? And then we can hit Alt, left click, and drag it over so that it will try to fill in that gap. But as you guys see, even if we drag it over, there's still like this microscopic gap at the end here.
I need you, baby.
Now, some people don't mind that tiny gap, but if you wanted to fix it, you could hit Alt, hit Shift, get rid of that microscopic little gap. And what we need to do is make this unique as a sample so that it's its own sample. And just double click here, and it should fix itself. But if it didn't, we're gonna right click and try different increments. So we did 2 beats. Now, if we do a bar, it's too long. So here's where there is no value that will perfectly do it for us. So we're gonna go to the top left under audio clips, make sure we hit the stretch audio, zoom in and hit Alt until this drags all the way to the end. So this is the only use case where I would normally use this tool, is when the defined lengths don't match up with the actual needed values. Hopefully that makes sense.
Baby.
So now this is more filled in and less gappy.
I need you, baby.
So you may hear clicks anytime you make chops. So a way to prevent this is to simply overlap the audio, hitting Alt to make it overlap. It will create a crossfade for you. Crossfades basically just turn the volume up and down really quickly so that it gets rid of the click that you guys hear, because clicks are when you have extreme changes in volume.
I need you, baby.
This could be a little bit better. So, you know, I'm not going to obsess about this tiny little area, but we could just crossfade longer.
Baby.
Also, I want to make sure it's not the metronome clicking.
Baby. Baby.
Okay, it's a little bit smoother. Now we're listening to the groove of the sample and not our drums. This is why I said we want to create the groove first and wrap the sample around our groove. Okay, so the reason I chop these first is because I want the audio to be time stretched. So that's like 7 steps just doing that. That's why people buy Serato Sample. I have a link below if you guys want to buy that plugin. It saves so much time. So if I just loop this back to back to back, hitting Shift and left clicking to drag it over, it's not going to fit the groove of our drums because the sample is still just listening to its own groove. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys a more efficient way to make it follow your drums.
I need you, baby. I need you right now. I need you, baby.
See how the drums don't even feel like they're matching the sample? And that's usually where most people get this wrong, okay, when they're making sample beats. Now, one way we can go about this is simply combining all this audio into one file, and we could process it using a Fruity Slicer, or we could just simply chop it up and play it by the chop. Because when you play stuff by the chop, you're usually following the timing of the drums, and that's what makes it wrap around the drum. So we'll do both to see which one sounds cooler. The next step here is once you have all your audio laid out across in horizontal rows, we're going to right click and consolidate track from track start. And we don't want any effects unless you guys need it for your specific sound. We definitely don't want mastering effects. So put the resampling mode up to the highest point here and let's hit start. So this will combine just that bass. Now let's do the same exact thing. So now instead of all these files, like all these individual files, it's now one big file, okay, for the bass. So that saves a lot of time. All right, now we're gonna do the same thing for the harmony section and the vocals. Once you guys have everything, it should mute the original audio. So in this case, you know, we could group it underneath the track. I'll just show you guys here how to just group stuff. Basically, right click, hit N to ungroup any previously grouped stuff. And if you wanted to save your takes, for example, like this vocal, we're going to right click, hit U to move this up higher. Then we're going to right click, hit N. I think it's either N or G. Let me group. I think it's G actually. So right click, hit G to group with the above track. And now we can click this little arrow to hide that specific lane of audio. But remember, you want to make sure it's muted first. Okay, so do that first. It should automatically do it. So this keeps your session a little more organized, basically, is what we're doing, is just getting rid of these muted tracks. So that's a little small hack. Okay, so now we only see three things happen.
I need you.
Okay, so the next thing we want to do is load these up in Fruity Slicers, because the Fruity Slicer will basically allow us to do like the J Dilla thing where we're slicing per like eighths or 16th beats. Okay, so let's double click in the audio, right click, open in Fruity Slicer. So it's important you time stretch before you do this technique. If you don't time stretch and reprint as audio and consolidate the audio, it won't have time stretch information on the file. So it's going to still be off beat. So that's why we time stretched first. Okay, so click here under the slice tool and let's go to a beat and pull up the attack time just so you guys can hear it. So now each slice will have a little stutter at the beginning. By default, it goes to the channel rack. Let's hit Control L to send this to the mixer. Let's turn our volume up. And we need to mute the actual harmony audio, and we need to left click and drag the new pattern in under the pattern selector. Okay, here's the harmony pattern. So now it's going ooh, wee, wee, like that. Now, because we're at 84 BPM, we can slice to the half beat. If you're at higher BPMs, we usually slice to the beat. So now it's woo, 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 like that.
I need you.
And now we have a little more control over the bounce of the sample, and it doesn't just kind of go on its own rhythm.
I need you.
So now I can do things like, for example, go to the settings here, go to the wrench tool and add time shift
I need you.
to really fit it in the pocket.
Baby, I need you. Right
So now it makes our drums sound extra groovy. So let's pull up the attack.
Baby, I need you right now.
So I'm just showing you guys how to make your drums stand out more. If I just loop the audio, your drums aren't going to match that groove. Okay, so let's do the same exact thing to the bass. We're going to right click, double click to open the bass, and then right click, open in Fruity Slice. Let's slice this by the half beat, pull the attack up. And remember that this creates a new instrument. Go to your channel rack, hit Control L. I'd recommend you put everything on a separate channel too, by the way, a separate pattern. Hit Control X, move this to a new pattern, hit Control V. So now the bass is separate from the instruments. Very important for arrangement purposes. Now we need to mute the original bass.
I need you.
And now the bass wraps around our drums.
I need you.
It's gonna turn up the bass a little bit.
I need you, baby. I need you.
And now we can mix the vocals, or we could chop the vocals up. In this case, I think just leaving the vocals as is will be fine. Let's just double click on the vocal, hit Control L to send it to the mixer.
I need you,
Let's add a parametric EQ too,
baby.
and let's filter out the vocal.
I need you right now. I need you, baby.
I'm going to show you guys a more advanced technique. Once you have everything laid out, now everything becomes a matter of adjusting the time. Okay, so for example, I'll show you guys a couple tricks. If you double click on your vocal, for example, go to pre-computed effects, use the stereo delay. This will create a left to right pan for the vocal.
I need you,
So it spreads it out.
baby. I need you.
Now we're just going to turn stuff up and turn stuff down.
I need you, baby. I need you
It's going to EQ out some of the low end of the bass so that the kick can come through a little bit more.
right now. I need you, baby.
So now everything's just about these microscopic time differences. And this is where, pro producers really take the time. It's going to be boring on video, but some of the things you want to do is swap out kicks and snares and simply just listen to those minute details about that hi-hat timing. So let's just try different kicks and snares. Let's go to a different drum broker break kit. Go to the Dilla kit called Saucy Loops. We're gonna go to the one shots. These are a little heavier. Okay, so what I'm going to do to keep the same rhythm is hit Control C to copy this MIDI pattern from the actual channel rack. Right click, open in new channel for the kick. Hit Control V for the kick. Actually, let's go to a new pattern. Let's go to a right click here and go to Find First Empty. Hit Control V for the kick. Go inside of the piano roll and hit Alt K and change all of the key to C, the scale to none. Left click here where it says C and left click the edges to where it's only one note. So basically what we're doing is taking all the random notes and making it one note, okay? So it keeps the same timing. I'm just going to delete this because it's already at middle C. So I'm going to drag pattern 4 into the playlist. Okay, and now I just need to copy that snare timing. Make sure you keep that snap to grid on 1 bar mode. It's easier to work. Hit Control B to latch paste. Okay, now we need a snare. Let's find a little snare. I just feel like these drums hit a little bit differently. So let's hit Control L, send it to the mixer. Now we need the snare timing. So let's go back to our drums, hit Control C. Go back to your empty pattern here. Find your snare, hit Control V. Go inside the piano roll. You can hit Control to highlight the kicks and just remove them. So now you're only left with the snare. You could just manually hit Shift down. It's probably faster. Or you can hit the Alt K like we showed you before. Now let's add the snares in here. Now it's a different vibe with the snare. Let's trim out the silence of the snare. Let's see if we can swap this hi-hat too. Now let's drag this in. So all we're gonna do again is hit Control C. Find the first empty pattern, hit Control V to paste the hi-hat pattern in. We got to make sure it's middle C, which it already is. Okay, so it's changing the sounds here, guys. This one's a little not what I expected. Let's do one thing here. Let's fade it out and mess with the sample start point. It's a little like early, so let's go to the wrench tool, turn up time shift. We got to figure out which part of the sample plays early. think it's the bass. There's this like dun dun dun. To add more delay. I guess we have a ton of delay already. Let's go back to the bass. Add a little time shift. See how all these little microscopic decisions start to add up? So I'm going to use some advanced stuff because it's too much really to explain every little thing. I'm starting to realize what we're going to do is quantize these drums to the MPC timing. You guys can find these settings in our Discord. Hit Alt Q. You can load up what are called score templates. I have a different video covering this. The files are in our Discord. We're going to go to 54% swing or 56%. That's kind of like my favorite, and mess with the start time. So now we played a humanized timing with the hi-hats, but we can also quantize it to a swing amount. So it has like a natural bounce to it. I found that this kind of helps tighten up some of the grooves. We can apply this to the kicks and the snares as well. So yeah, that small little quantize helps some of the differentiate between those hi-hats and the snares. So it's little things like these that you guys will learn.
I need you, baby. I need you.
Let's also try pitching the vocal up. Let's double click here. Let's go to mode, stretch mode, and let's pull up the pitch. I usually do 300 cents to switch it to a female vocal.
I need you.
But it's not going to match the key. So let's do an octave just to really... Now we get that chipmunk sound. Now I think the bass line is actually... It's just filling up too much of the gap. So let's turn the bass off. Okay, so see how our intent has to override the intent of the sample, or else you'll get just a sample bullying your drums. Let's go to a new pattern here, and now let's find a bass. I'm just going to use what I would use, guys. I'm not going to sit here and use the free version of everything because the free version does not give you good sound. We're going to use Trillion, and I'm going to use the actual bass I would actually use, which is called, let me pull it up, the Fingered Trilogy Old School Bass. This is like perfect for soul vibes. So now we got to play the keys that we hear in our head. If you need help, there's another plugin called Scalar. So as you guys can see, sampling sounds simple when you could just drag and drop stuff, but when you actually have to produce it, it's a lot of steps. It's probably one of the most difficult things to do in all of music production is sample. You have to understand a lot of music. Now we have this open. We need to find the key. Okay, so those are the notes. It's hard to tell. I think the key changes. It definitely changes. So this is tricky because there's two keys here. See how it goes down the half step? So there's two keys here, so it's tricky. It switches keys. So that's why I try to stay away from talking about scales and which scale you're in because it's not the whole story. From what I hear, for the most part, it's all the white notes. Okay, so I'm going to play by ear to the sample. And anytime I feel like I have to use half steps to go out of the key, I will. So there I felt like the half step was needed. So what we're doing now is adding the contrast layer to this. I think I want to start at D. It's a little bit easier to wrap around. As you guys can hear, this bass is like screaming over the beat. So you got to figure out ways to make this maybe go up an octave so that it's not as deep. So the original bass is very active. So we need to turn this down. Also too, it sounds out of key, not because of the notes we're playing, but because of the tuning. Man, there's so much to teach. As I'm teaching this, I'm realizing there's so much to teach. That's why I have all my courses at busyworksbeats.com/premium, because there's so many fundamentals that I have to skip over. But one of the reasons why it sounded out of key is simply the tuning, not the notes we were playing. Snare feels a little delayed. Just want to quantize it and fade it out. Let's pull down the bass an octave, control down, see if it fits better in the mix. But see how that bass is so strong, whereas the original sample was not that strong. So now we have to make the bass blend in without. Let's also try running our drums here through the same drum bus to see if we get more bite out of them. Using that standard clip. I'm gonna turn the hi-hat down. Also feel like the hi-hat just isn't shaped properly or tuned properly. Here we go. See how much work goes into this? Let's also try a different snare. Just want to see what different styles snares we can fit in here. A little bit lighter, but it has this weird click sound on it. I do like it though. I don't know why my screen keeps glitching, y'all. So if you see the screen glitching, I don't know why it's done. So now again, we're going back to swap out the sounds because now it's a fundamental selection issue. So again, we can sit here all day trying to find the best kick and the best snare. We just gotta sometimes just decide on a kick. There we go. So I like this modern kick a little bit better. It's a little more even. There we go. Now we have a cleaner sound. So I'm gonna mess with that instruments track a little bit more because it's so the more truncation or the more volume you take out of the sample, the more groove you're gonna bring back into the actual beat. Now that people don't realize there's a gate knob here on the wrench tool. This is where you can add a little truncation. For that like J Dilla type of I think to this vocal, it's too loose. Let's double click in here, right click, open Fruity Slicer, slice this by the half beat. Same deal here. I'm going to move quicker here because we already described this 3 times. All right, we need to drag this pattern into a new pattern. Hit Control L, turn this up. Now we're going to add this pattern back into the area here. Now we have a more rhythmic top line. Okay. So all these clips with the our samples, we can now move them to the bottom of the screen because we don't need them. Let's just move them manually like this. Okay, so now we can see what we actually have. And now all we need to do is add our bass and our harmony and the top line back. Top line is the vocal. Harmony section is the oohs and ahs. So this is the other bass line we're not using right now. Let's see what happens if we stack our bass with their bass. And just filter out their bass. It might just be too much movement. All right, now we need to add the effects like reverb and different things. I'm just going to do this without overly explaining. So I messed with the time stretch feature here to kind of smear the audio a little bit. So I'm debating on quantizing our drums here so they're not. So I'm just gonna hit Control G to quantize the drums. Hard quantize it to see if we get more contrast between the sample timing. That's why I said timing is such an important element. Feels a little more cohesive. All right, so because we time stretch everything, just quantizing a little harder, fix some of the groove differences. As you guys can see, it's a lot of steps. Other thing you could do is sidechain your kick to the harmony. So let's right click here, sidechain to this track, the harmony track, open up Fruity Limiter. Go to the compressor mode, right click, select your kick, pull down the threshold, turn up your ratio. So now when your kick hits, it will turn the chorus down and add a unique. One of these notes is off at the end. Let me figure out what it is. I think it's the bass. right, so all those steps finally got us a more cohesive timing. Now this is about adding vibe and like sound effects. So I'm just gonna mix this real quick. I'm gonna pause the video because the mixing takes a long time and I don't want to sit here and make this video 1,000 years long, guys. All right, I made the track a little louder just so we can get a vibe. So I have a couple ideas that I want to do. Let's do the vocal. I think it's this one, right? Okay, so I want some of the vocal pitched up, some pitched down. All right, so I'm going to just randomly select this one, make it unique on pattern 12 so that I know this is the one that will change. Let's clone this, copy, hit Control X, Control V, and I'm going to pull the pitch back to normal. Now in arrangement terms, you know, usually you bring in the bass over time. Let's do that. So let's take out the bass for like the first 4 bars or so. Usually I take out the kick too, but let's just see. But we do need the hi-hat, so. Hold on, y'all, clicked the wrong button. Let's just keep the kick in for now, but normally I would take out the kick in the beginning. I guess I'll just show you guys. So let's slice it here. We need to make this unique. It's as its own pattern. Make it unique. Go in here, find the kick, hit Control X to get rid of that kick. So now it's just hi-hat and snare in the intro. All right, so you guys can see how much work goes into getting the timing right. We spent a good 20 minutes just on timing on that beat. And that's the difference between people who really know how to make sample beats and people who just kind of slap stuff together. I'm not saying one's wrong and one's right, but that is the way to get more control over your sample beats, is to really, 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 really listen to every little time thing. Okay, so I'm not going to make this video any longer. I want to thank you guys for joining into our free beat making course, and it's for free right on YouTube. So subscribe if you're new, share with a friend. Peace out, guys.